So, this is Soncerae here. I appreciate you listening to me on Spreaker as well as watching me on YouTube. If you aren't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. This will be all my podcasts, all my speakers. This is what this channel is designed for. Ooh, excuse me. So I appreciate you subscribing and leaving your comments inside of the comment section in regards to this specific topic. Any comments that are put inside of the comment section that do not have anything to do with this specific topic will be deleted. If it's disrespectful, it will be deleted. Just telling you guys beforehand. And so, of course, everybody knows that I'm 7 months pregnant, and I was abandoned by the father of my son. I think in my third or fourth month. He tried to leave like 3 times. And I just kept begging him and begging him and begging him and begging him to like stick with me because I needed him, you know. And he would come home, start arguments, talk to me about other women he was attracted to and wanted to be with. Sometimes, you know, he would come home way too late or on the weekends, or he wouldn't even be around on the weekend. I mean, he just started disappearing and always being around other women and talking to me about other women and started arguments with me. And he didn't start doing this until after I got pregnant. A few weeks after he found out, he just started acting very different. We went to the pregnancy center to have an ultrasound together, and inside of the ultrasound, he was rude to the ultrasound techs. He was rude to the people that was there. And you know, the funny thing is, I didn't know that the pregnancy center that we went to was a Christian-based pregnancy center until we got there. And I was like, wow, I didn't know. So they offered us counseling. We did go into counseling, but he was disrespectful to the counselor. They did want to give us prayer and stuff like that, and that didn't work out, of course, because, you know, I'm Buddhist, and my son's father used to be Hebrew Israelite, but he decided to not have a religion and have like spiritual beliefs. But it wasn't until time went by that I realized that he wasn't even spiritual. When it came time for us to, you know, go through our little struggles and things of that nature, I would say pray, I would say meditate, you know, things like that. And he wouldn't do it. He just seemed a real Luciferian and real like satanic and evil and just devilish. It's the only way I can describe it. It was just like so negative that I can't, it's the only way I can describe it from a Christian belief. Like, even though I'm not Christian, I'm Buddhist. It's just that negativity. It was so bad. It was so dark and mysterious that I was just like, I didn't even know he had this dark side to him. And so, it turned me into this person where I'm sitting here defending myself against this guy, and I'm not as spiritual as I was. And, you know, it just got bad. So I basically had to end up kicking him out, okay, because finally, after I kept begging him, he said to me he didn't love me, he didn't want the relationship anymore, he didn't want the baby, and that he wanted to get back with his ex. But he wasn't asking to leave. You see what I'm saying? Like, he was wanting to stay, but he wanted to still sleep with other women and get back with his ex. And it didn't make sense to me. Like, you can't stay living with me, but try to get back with an ex you told me that you wasn't going to be with anymore, and sleep with other women, and then come home being shitty towards me every day when I'm sick. Okay, that's not going to work. So I said to him, you know what, just go ahead and leave, because I already begged you to stay 3 times, and it just seems like the shit is getting worse and worse and worse. Clearly, you don't want to be here. You said you don't want the baby. I mean, that's the worst thing you could say to me. So I asked him to leave. And so when I told everybody on YouTube that I was abandoned during pregnancy, a lot of people felt like that was personal business that I shouldn't have shared, or I'm always telling my business and blah, blah, blah. But what they overlooked was how many women have done this. So if you go into the search on YouTube and you put abandoned while pregnant or anything that has to do with single motherhood, being pregnant alone, if you put that in the YouTube search, you will see that so many women have posted videos about them experiencing this very thing. And so when I decided to tell people that that's what I was going through, I didn't expect, to get so much hatred and so much ugliness, towards me. It was just sad to see. And, people tried to make it seem like it was just out of the ordinary for me to tell this story when so many women have done it. And, so as I've been going through everything, and like I said, I'm 7 months pregnant, I haven't seen the father of my child since November. The day I asked him to leave, because I made sure I wasn't there when he came to pick up his things. And I have not seen him since that day. And that was in November. And here it is, March 3rd or 4th or something like that. And I don't really talk to him. We don't talk. It's very difficult to communicate with him. Because once we broke things off, it seemed like all he wanted to do was discuss the relationship, and I didn't. All I wanted to do was talk about the baby. So he's talking to me about the relationship. I'm ignoring him. He's talking about the women he's dated. I'm ignoring him. I'm talking about the baby. He's ignoring me. And so now we're in a situation where he's telling everybody our baby isn't his. He was telling people he wanted a DNA test, but then when I would offer him, information about the DNA test, he would ignore it. I've offered him signing away his parental rights. I have spoken about how I don't want to put him on child support, and still it's like he wants to just complicate my life even more. He doesn't want me to be happy, or he doesn't want the situation to go smooth at all. And it seems like even when we was together, it was like, he wanted to tear me down or to like destroy me mentally. I never could understand how I could be as sick as I was and not feeling well in my first trimester, and he would come home from work, and you would think after a man been working all day every day, all he wants to do is lay down and go to sleep or eat and chill, watch some Netflix. But he'd come home from work and want to talk about women and end up arguing with me and wanting to start an argument. And I'm just like, how do you even have the energy for this? Because I am so sick. Like, I don't even want to talk most of the time. I just want to sit here and chill. That's it. And so, it just for me to be around someone who had no empathy and no compassion, just it's sad. It made me very sad. So, what I did was I went onto YouTube just to help me get past all of this, because it's very, very hurtful, and for it to happen publicly to where I told my story and people came down on me so hard. And then he went on to social media platforms and made up all these lies about me and told people that the baby wasn't his and all this stuff. It was just very hurtful. So it wasn't other people's opinions that was bothering me. It was really everything that he was doing. And so that was already stressing me enough. And so I was like, okay, I got to find a way to be able to cope with all this. And, one of my hobbies and one of the things that I love to do is make YouTube videos. So I said, well, since YouTube I'm always on YouTube all of the time anyway, why don't I get onto YouTube and find like some type of, advice about me handling a pregnancy alone, or me dealing with a breakup while I'm pregnant. So I put in the search, dealing with pregnancy alone, or being a single mother, or dealing with being abandoned while pregnancy. And all these videos from a whole bunch of women just started popping up. And so I just started watching a whole bunch of these videos and hearing them talk about, their experiences and how they got through it, and, or when they was doing the videos while they were going through it, and some of them were crying. And I remember when I did videos of me crying, and my son's father would make fun of me as if I'm pretending to cry, or it's just, my hurt is not warranted or it's not real, and he just completely disregarded my feelings altogether. And I'm seeing these women just sit here and they're crying too, and they're like, you're not alone. The shit is very hurtful. It's like very painful when you are sharing your body, like you sacrifice your body. You're giving a seed, and you are nurturing this seed for a man who doesn't even respect the fact that you have sacrificed your body for this, and they can just walk off and go sleep with other women, or get back with their exes, or act like the baby doesn't exist, or talk about you negatively as if you've done something to them when they cheated and they lied and they, made all of these mistakes, but they never take accountability for it. So I'm hearing women talk about it, and I heard a couple of guys, like some guys made some videos about it, and most of the men who made videos about it, they weren't black. And so finally, just recently, I saw that a black guy had made a video about it, and it was Tony Gaskins. So as I'm listening to it, right, and Tony Gaskins is a motivational speaker and life coach. And so I'm sitting there and I'm listening to Tony Gaskins. And I can't even get past minute number 5, because the storyline was a woman had sent him an email saying that she was dating a guy for 6 months. Now, mind you, Priest and I was together 7. And the last 2 months is when we found out I was pregnant with Justice. So I can kind of relate with the time frame. But I think because we was living together and started a life in that way, I think it's kind of different from this woman's. But anyway, that's hard to explain to people because a lot of people don't understand. Like, a lot of people think we moved too fast. But for us, for at least for me, it wasn't a speed thing. And even if it was fast for him, I feel like he could have slowed us down at any given time and just said, before I got pregnant, that he just wasn't interested in moving at this speed and he wanted to slow down. Because he did say to me, I want to slow down on, finalizing my divorce, because he had been separated for 2 years, and here I was being open-minded, being with him. So, when he said, well, I need more time to get divorced, I was sitting here like, okay, you take your time to get divorced, but I'm telling you, if I start getting fed up with it, I'm just going to leave. I'm not going to give you an ultimatum. I'm just going to bounce. Like, once I get tired of something, I don't sit here and try to plead with you, or I just be done with it, and I end the entire situation if it gets too much. And I think that's what made me be like, get out, go ahead and make arrangements to stay somewhere else. Once he told me what he told me, he was saying little shit like, I'm only with you because you're pregnant, but he never was sensitive about the pregnancy to where he would, calm down on the arguing, stop complaining or coming in the house trying to make me feel bad, and comparing me to other women and telling me how much more beautiful or successful these other women were. And I'm sitting here like, I'm pregnant and I'm sick. The last thing I want to hear is that. The last thing I want to do is argue. I need somebody that's going to be here for me. If you're going to be here, at least show me some support and some compassion and some consideration. Being as though we're supposed to be friends. I mean, you don't want to be with each other anymore. Let's, at least be cordial and help me get back on my feet. So, when the baby is born, I can take care of him. But he just seemed to not be thinking of it that way. He was only thinking of himself. And so anyway, the girl, back to this Tony Gaskins and the girl. So the girl was saying, I've been dating this guy for 6 months, and I was on birth control. And I accidentally got pregnant. I didn't want a baby. That's the reason why I was on birth control. But when I told him that I was pregnant, he was happy. He wanted to keep the baby. And so them two decided to stay together. And then they went on this trip to his family's house. And he ended up doing something sneaky with one of his sister's friends. And so when she came to him, not the sister, but when the pregnant woman came to him and said, hey, I feel uncomfortable about the fact that you done snuck off with your sister's friend, he got mad at her and broke up with her. So now the girl is alone and pregnant. And he's not talking to her at all and all this stuff. So I'm thinking from a motivational speaker standpoint, you're going to give someone the real, right? You're going to give them some realistic shit to work with because we all have a real life here. Second, Tony Gaskins starts opening his mouth. He starts basically blaming her even after she said, I was on birth control. He's like, your birth control cheap. Okay, you should have been checking up on this birth control. If you didn't want to have kids, you shouldn't be having sex anyway. You should have waited till you got married. The Bible says such and such and such. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, first of all, let's not sit here and make it seem like, number one, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas are gone. Like, you might want to speed up and give her advice on what to do from now on. That's number one. Number two, not everybody waits for marriage, and most people don't wait for marriage in regards to sex. Okay, I don't care, Christian or not. Most Christians don't even wait for sex. So for him to be saying this shit to her, blaming her, even though she was on birth control, I was just like, I cannot believe this Bible thumping Christian preacher is calling himself a motivational speaker or a life coach. If you're going to be a pastor or a preacher or reverend or some shit like that, push the Bible on people. Okay, that makes sense. But if you're going to be a motivational speaker, you have to understand that women who aren't Christian are listening to you. So if they're coming to you for some advice, the last thing they're going to be thinking is that you're going to thump that Bible in their face. Take religion out altogether if you're going to call yourself a motivational speaker and a life coach. If you are a motivational speaker, you should be able to talk to any woman of any religion, of any color, of any age. Because that's what a motivational speaker does. That's what a life coach does. If you are a pastor or a preacher or a minister or a reverend, then you can thump that Bible in somebody's face. But let's be realistic here. Like I said, there's people out there who claim they're Christian, but aren't waiting for marriage to have sex. Either way, he totally blamed the entire situation on her because, he felt like she didn't know this guy long enough to be having a baby by him or to be having sex with him, even though she had been dating him 6 months. And, I'm thinking, aren't we all over like 30? You're not talking to a teenage girl here. This is not a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old here. People are meeting each other and their salutation is sex. Okay, let's not play here. Let's be real here. I'm not a fan of one night stands and busted babies and casual sex, but I'm a polyamorous person. So I've seen people be in all types of relationships that worked for them, that aren't traditional, and they seem to be extremely happy for years inside of these situations, whether they jumped each other off on the first night or not, whether they had sex before they were married or not. Most people do not wait for marriage to have sex. They might wait for kids. They might wait for marriage to have kids, but shit happens. So why wasn't he trying to give her advice for after the fact? Okay, now you're pregnant. Now he's gone. That's how he should have started off his motivational speaking. But the way that he was speaking to her, he just dragged her off break. And the interesting part about this was my first Tony Gaskins podcast I even listened to, because usually if I see anything that has to do with Tony Gaskins, it's like a quote that I saw somewhere. Like it's like someone maybe posted a quote he posted on Facebook or Instagram or something. So I had never, listened to a podcast of his. I had seen he started like a podcast recently, but I wasn't even listening to it. I hadn't even listened to it. And so, when that came up, actually listened to him for the first time, and I was like completely disappointed, because I was like, well, damn, shit, if you was a minister, or you was a, if I knew you was going to push this Christianity nonsense in my face, I wouldn't even bother to click on it. Is that really just your entire message to all of these women that's coming to you for relationship advice? You're going to Bible thump them? You're going to, put Christianity on them? So again, to me, and this is the reason why I stopped ministering myself, because I didn't want to speak to just one specific type of woman, or one specific type of man, or one race of person. I wanted to be able to give my advice to people of all genders, of all spiritual backgrounds and ethnicities. I wanted to be able to just reach whoever. And so far, I've been successful at that. It's not that I don't understand why people choose Christianity. Doesn't mean that it's the right religion. Like, a lot of people think because it's so popular, it's the right religion. But there's so many contradictions I found in the Bible that don't make sense to me. I mean, it's just so many things that don't make sense to me. Now, don't get it twisted. I could still open the Bible and look at Proverbs and find something that, is very inspirational and very motivational for me. But I don't take the Bible literally, because most people who are supposedly following this Bible, or following the 10 Commandments, or following, or saying that such and such is a sin, usually they commit sins themselves. They just try to measure their sins differently than they do someone else's. So I just don't really rely on the Bible so much to where I take it literally, but I do take everyday life literally. I take spirituality literally. I take metaphysics and energy and science and stuff literally, because those things have worked for me, to some degree. Those things have worked for me. And so he isn't the only one that will speak to me instantly about Christianity. I've had tons of people come to me and talk to me about my situation with priests, and they mention God. And a lot of people who are close to me, or even if you just follow me on Facebook, you know that right now I'm having a difficult time with prayer and meditation, because when I, first got with priests, and even throughout our entire relationship, I relied on God a lot. I prayed so much for us. I meditated so much for us. I even meditated with this man. I really just put a lot of faith into God. And I say, all these years I wanted a baby boy, and I was blessed with a baby boy, but I still don't understand why God would want to take his father from me, knowing that I wanted a solid family structure. Out of all of the men, he could have brought into my life for me to end up pregnant by, why did it have to be by this guy who doesn't want a baby, who doesn't want a baby with me, who doesn't want a family with me, but portrayed himself to be that? Why would God do something like that? Like, why is that so unfair? And why is it that I have to be the good person all of the time, even when someone is doing something ugly towards me? Why do I have to be the person that keeps the door open for priest whenever he feels like he wants to be, a father, even though he abandoned both of us, when I needed him most? He abandoned me in justice when I needed him most. So why do I have to be the bigger person in all this and leave the door open? Meanwhile, he's not being held accountable for anything that he's done. And I'm supposed to just play fair and be nice and forgive and, just continue to be like this good person. Like, why does it have to be that way? And why would God even put us in this position? And so I would hear people say, this is not of God. And this is what Tony Gaskins said about this girl's pregnancy. He flat out told this girl's pregnancy that was not of God, that her pregnancy wasn't of God, that was all her. I was so livid. Do you hear me? I was so livid, because I'm like, who are you to tell this woman that life wasn't given to her by God? Like, what the hell? Like, I just could not understand why he would even classify her blessing that she received when she didn't even want kids, and she was on birth control just to avoid it altogether, and she ends up pregnant anyway. And this fool tells her that the baby is not of God and it was all her fault, and I'm like, I cannot believe I'm listening to this shit. And so, to me, I feel like, of course, my son is a blessing. Justice is definitely a blessing from God, because I went so many years being told I wouldn't get pregnant, and I had 3 abortions, and not 3 abortions. No, I did have 3 abortions. 3 abortions and 2 miscarriages. 3 abortions and 2 miscarriages in my early 20s. So I just knew I wasn't gonna have kids. I was like, I done fuck no. My uterus is just all screwed. Like, that's just not ain't gonna happen. And then I tried to get pregnant a couple of times. I got engaged and it didn't work. So I was just like, this is just not gonna work for me. And then 10 years ago, I had a miscarriage. Right? And so from then on, I just was like, this is just clearly not going to work. I need to decide to be a foster parent. So when I got with Priest and he didn't have any kids, I'm 37, he 37. He had been in a marriage for 14 years and didn't have kids, but she had 3 or 4 before she even got with him. And they didn't have kids together. And I'm sitting here like, well, I have Dominique. Dominique's 17. I'm not sitting here, trying to be everybody's baby mama anyway. So I've been trying to avoid, like, even though I couldn't have children, I still was like wearing protection and still, trying to protect myself against that in the event that, God might change his mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, I'm going to put on some protection anyway, because I really just, I don't know. So for the most part, and plus because I was polyamorous and my partners had other partners that I was aware of, I was like, well, at least let's protect ourselves. So that's why it's been so, I've been wearing condoms too. So that could have been another reason why I didn't get pregnant in these past 10 years, because I've been using protection. You know what I'm saying? So that's another reason. But I always think to myself, as I sit here and I'm pregnant with Justice, I think to myself, like, out of all of the men that could have got me pregnant, why is it this guy? Like, why was it this guy? Out of all of the guys that, could have been a better provider, could have been more financially stable, who may have genuinely cared for me or wanted to be with me, why in the world did it have to be Priest? A man that didn't love me and was pretending to love me all that time, didn't care about me, wanted to be with somebody else. It's just extremely irresponsible, extremely selfish, extremely immature. Like, and why did I have to find out these negative things about him after I got pregnant? Why couldn't I have found out beforehand that he was, all of the things that would be classified as a deadbeat father or a horrible person to have a child by? Like, I always, saw his flaws. Like, I saw his flaws from the beginning, but I never thought it was to the degree to where he would be a bad father figure or he would be a bad friend. Do you understand? It's like, you can see somebody's like flaws, but you're not gonna instantly think, oh, I don't know, he'll be a bad father. I just always thought he would be a good father. We had so many conversations about marriage and children and stuff like that. I never in a million years would think he would have done this, or he would have denied our child. Like, we sat down, even after I got pregnant, we were talking about, him being a father. Initially, he used to be kind of supportive, rubbing my stomach. He was just there. He just started distancing himself. It seemed like the more scared I got, because I was scared. I thought I was going to have a miscarriage. I thought anything. I was so sick, and then sometimes I would be bleeding, and I was just so weak and exhausted. My first trimester, it was just so bad. I was like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Like, I felt so bad. Like, you guys don't even understand. My first trimester was the worst shit I ever felt. And all I needed for him to do is just chill out until it was over. Like, you just wait till I get to a point in my pregnancy where I'm not feeling this bad, and we can like fix whatever we need to fix, and we can move forward, we can break up or whatever it is. Just help me get past this hump. Like, I need you here because I am not 100%. And he just completely ignored all of that for his own selfish reasons, to sleep with other women and to get back with his ex, and just all types of just ugly stuff. And I was just like, this is the man that I fell in love with. Like, this is the man that I've been friends with and catering to and trying to survive with and trying to be understanding with and trying to improve with. This is who this dude is. Like, he really is that low. It just shocked me. Like, I was like, what? You know what I'm saying? I just could not believe it. So anyway, I will not be listening to Tony Gaskins because he disappointed me so much. I was so disgusted after that 5-minute podcast. I have never been disgusted in under 5 minutes listening to somebody in my entire life. And I am so shocked to have heard him say something like this to this woman insensitively. Like, and this is another reason why, if you're a woman and you're going through something, if you're pregnant or whatever the case is, listening to a man around this time might not be a good idea, because a lot of them lack the empathy and compassion and sensitivity you need during your pregnancy. Us as women, we need men to be a little bit more understanding and a little bit, just open-minded. But because they have never been pregnant themselves, they don't understand where you stand emotionally. They don't understand these significant changes in your body. They don't get it. They don't understand how difficult something like this can be. It's not always a walk in the park. Being a mom definitely ain't a walk in the park, and having to change your life so drastically, and the father of your child decides to walk away when you need him. Oh my God, that's like the worst thing a man could do to a woman. It's a betrayal on a level that it can't be described. You will never be able to understand no shit like that unless you're a woman. That pain that you feel, you cut so deep. It's like you're so broken. You will never understand that as a man, because it's nothing. Put it like this. Like I said, having a baby changes about your body as a woman. Your entire body. There is nothing that a man will go through ever in life where it affects his body the way a pregnancy affects a woman's body, from her brain to her heart to her emotions to her mental place to everything. Men do not understand this, and for them to lack the compassion and sensitivity and empathy, it's disgusting. It is totally disgusting. And the fact that, a man could even walk away from his girlfriend during a time like this is so sad. And for a man to blame a woman for a man walking away and not holding that man accountable or not, and wanting to throw the Bible in her face. Oh my God, I can't with Tony Gaskins. That was the point of this speaker. I can't with Tony. That's all.